That was Fergal Keane. Now, it used to be the case that if we wanted to be shocked by violent or graphic video, we'd have to pay our money and take our seat for the latest horror movie at the local picture house. How deliberate and planned that now seems when contrasted to the images that went round the world in minutes of Gadaffi first being beaten and then a decaying corpse on display in a meat store. We'll discuss these issues in a moment with the acclaimed director David Cronenberg, who tomorrow collects a fellowship award at the British Film Institute.
I don't like it here.
Cronenberg has been famous throughout his career for making films exploring dystopian visions of the future, the impact of technology on the human experience, deviant behaviour, subconscious desires and extreme perversions. His 1996 film Crash shocked viewers and critics alike by exploring the sexual thrill of the car accident.
Are you all right? She's a walking advertisement for the effectiveness of psychoanalysis.
His latest film, A Dangerous Method, gets to the root of these preoccupations by looking at the originator of the idea of the subconscious, Sigmund Freud, and his relationship with Carl Jung.
There's a rumor running around Vienna that you've taken one of your patients as a mistress.
Cronenberg's interest in the human capacity for violence and the power of the image to shock has led to some of the more extreme cinematic images of our time. The issue of representing horrifying images of violence on screen has arisen again recently when photographs and footage of the dead, bloodied Gadaffi taken on mobile phones were sent around the world within minutes. But what's the effect of our exposure to such violent images, whether in films or in real life? Are we becoming unshockable? And if so, does it matter?
And David Cronenberg is here now. What did you think when you saw those images of Gadaffi?
What surprised me was that Gadaffi, who was never a favorite of mine, I was suddenly feeling quite sorry for him. I felt huge empathy, and it was quite striking to me that I felt that way. It surprised me, and I think it's because at that moment he had been stripped of all context, and he was a human being who was suffering and being, assaulted.
Do you think that the instant availability of that sort of footage, and it is now instantly available, and we didn't show most of it there, and it's pretty horrific.
Yep.
Do you think it affects us? How does it affect us?
Well, as I say, you can make a case for it enhancing our sense of empathy for people. You know, I mean, it's easy to say, oh, we're being desensitized because we see a lot of it, but I don't really think that's the function. You know, that's something that's been mentioned to me because my earlier films were all horror films, and people would say, well, do your films desensitize people? And I think not, because I think people really understand there's a difference when you're seeing a fictional context.
Absolutely. They understand the artifice involved in cinema.
Yes.
But that is not artifice.
It's not artifice, and it draws forth a completely different reaction, I think, from us. I mean, I remember looking up on the internet and watching a beheading. And it was, I wish I hadn't seen it. I mean, it was so disturbing. Why did you do it? You know, I felt I needed to confront the reality of what was going on. I mean,
you didn't need to.
And what really disturbed me about it was that the perpetrators of this beheading were incredibly self-righteous. I mean, you could see that they felt that they were doing a wonderful, sacred, holy thing, whereas on the human level, it was absolutely hideous.
But you were drawn to it?
I wasn't, no, I was. I mean, I actually had to compel myself to watch it, almost feeling that I needed to confront what was going on in the world at the time. I've never watched another one.
Why did you feel that you needed to confront it?
Because you read about it, but no written description can really deliver to you the full texture of it.
But you know exactly what happens just from the word beheading. You know what happens when someone's beheaded.
You don't. You don't.
Just, well,
no.
I
because
suggest you know
because
that
you
their
think
head is cut off and they're dead. And it's a horrible thing to do to someone.
But you know, when you think of the guillotine and you think, oh, you've seen this in movies, you've never seen it because there was no film at the time of the French Revolution. The guillotine comes down, shunk, and a head falls off, and we've seen it reproduced in movies. No, this beheading took ages. It took half an hour, and it was agonizing, and it wasn't even like a slaughterhouse, which is much more efficient. It was a ritual full of self-righteousness, and to that extent, I'm glad I saw it, because what does it make you do? It really makes you hate the people who perpetrated it.
Why are you drawn to, or have you been drawn to, fictional violence in your films?
Yeah, I don't think that I've been drawn to it more than verbal violence, let's say. I mean, my latest movie, History of Violence, I did a movie called A History of Violence, but I've now done one called The Most Dangerous Method, which is not about violence, it's about the birth of psychoanalysis. Certainly those things are connected. But as George Bernard Shaw said, conflict is the essence of drama. Now, it doesn't always have to be physical conflict, but if you are a dramatist, you are drawn to conflict as part of your art.
But movies, the most controversially, Crash, of course, these are movies about extreme human behavior.
Yes, and I think, in fact, Freud...
Why does it interest you?
Well, Freud was attacked because of his insistence on the reality of the possibility of creatures from the id, monsters of violence. When he was proposing the unconscious, it was at a time when everybody felt that man was evolving into a wonderful, super civilized, controlled...
Is this because you're anxious about the human potentiality for that sort of behavior?
Well, seeing things like the Gadaffi footage certainly can make you anxious, but and I mean, you'd be strange if it didn't. But it's not so much anxiety as curiosity. I mean, really, or a desire to know. I mean, it's an artist and a psychoanalyst. I think they do the same thing. They don't accept the official version of reality. They want to dive underneath that and see what's really going on. And some of it is very dark, and some of it is very not just dark, but unusual and curious and surprising. So I think it's curiosity more than anything else.
David Cronenberg, thank you, and congratulations on your fellowship.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for now. More tomorrow, but until then, good night.